Hello and welcome to the PvA Nightly Rundown. I am your host, Luke Croft, and this is the nightly gaming news show where I run you through all of the gaming news that you may have missed throughout the day so that you don't look like a fucking idiot at the water cooler tomorrow. Happy Friday to everybody out there. Hopefully this is the start to what is going to be a fantastic weekend for you. I am feeling good tonight. I hope you are feeling good as well. Sorry we're a little late. It is 9:30 Eastern rather than 9 o'clock Eastern like we normally do the show at. Had a family get together. One of my nephews turned 2. I don't think it was today. I think it was this week. And so he loves baseball, so we went to a baseball field and hung out with him and the rest of my family. And so it was hot as hell. Hot as hell. And I sweated a lot, but I was like, I got to get home, finish the nightly rundown stuff, and then just realized I made a tweet, did not send the tweet. I have now sent the tweet. Was like, need to get home, do the rest of the notes for the nightly rundown, and then we'll get on a little later. So, yeah, just a smidge late today, but that is perfectly fine. Hopefully you guys have good plans. We're going to spend the weekend cleaning and getting rid of shit. Our goal is to put our house up for sale soon. Very soon. And it's going to require some maintenance on our part that we are not quite used to doing. Like, we're not dirty people, but we're not like dirty. We just tend to have messes everywhere. Like, because at the end of our workday, you know, we're not really feeling like getting stuff clean, like doing a bunch of house chores, shit like that. So, but when you're selling a house, right, like you've got to have it immaculate all the time. And so tomorrow we are going to reset, get everything done, you know, get all through our laundry, get it all folded, mop the floors, like spending the weekend resetting. And it's gonna feel nice. I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready to make a change in how we're living. Like, rather than just waiting for one day a week where we just go in and clean everything, like, why don't we just keep up with it? You know? So anyway, that's the plan for my weekend, which may not sound like much of a weekend to you, but I'm actually decently excited about it. We've got the LEC in the last few weeks. We have in their last few weeks of the summer split, we've got the LCS playoffs that I believe are going to be taking place tomorrow. Who plays tomorrow? Let us see. LCS. TSM and Clutch go tomorrow in a best of 5 series, so I'll have that to watch. So I have like something to have on in the background while I'm doing shit, which will be nice. So chill weekend for me. But anyway, this is I've got not a new headset, it's an old headset. This is my old PlayStation Gold headset. This headset is awesome. But I've been wanting to use a wired one during the PvA Nightly Rundown because my wireless Astros are great for when I'm playing games, but if there's not sound constantly coming through them, they'll automatically shut off after like 5 minutes. And so when I'm doing this show, where we're not constantly like playing audio in the background, they'll turn themselves off. Kind of in the rev up stage right now for what's going to be this show, because I'm upset, but in an entertaining way, I think now. Like, parse through a lot of my thinking about some things. We're going to get into that here in a bit, but let's do the rigmarole here at the top. This is the PvA Nightly Rundown. We do this every single weeknight except for Wednesdays over here on twitch.tv/PvA Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern time most of the time. If you follow me on Twitter over here, I got it right on the first try over here, Luke at Luke PvA. If we have a weird night like tonight where it's going to be late, anything like that, I always try to tweet it out before we do anything. But sorry guys, just realized something was wrong. All right, and now it is right. Yeah, I normally tweet about it, and I'll try to post it up in Discord as well if anything is going a little not according to plan. But we try to do this every single weeknight except for Wednesdays at 9 p.m. If you can't catch us live, we do post this the very next day over on youtube.com/PVA Radio, where we break it out topic by topic, or you can watch the entire show. I've been thinking about creating a new podcast feed where we can put this up as an audio only thing, knowing that this show does not particularly lend itself well to an audio format, I don't think, because we watch some videos here, we read out stories, I pull up pictures, and so, but I know that some people, like, if you can't catch it live, or if you aren't around to watch it on YouTube, maybe you want to be caught up on it, in audio form, and I want to be able to give that to you. So I'm thinking about possibly starting that in the next few weeks, but yeah. So that's the rigmarole here at the top, guys. Go check out the latest episode of PvA Radio, which is what we do over here on this channel on Wednesday nights. That's the show where me, Cody Mellowkline, and Larry Hunt get together, talk about gaming news, the biggest gaming news stories of the week, the three biggest. We have a really in-depth discussion about it. This week's episode was fantastic, and I'm not getting paid to say that. That's because we don't get paid for our content. But I am very biased, but I think it really was a good show. So definitely go check that out over on YouTube, and also if you just search PvA Radio on podcast services everywhere, you will be able to find it. All right, guys, well, let's jump into it with the games that released today. As always, pulling this over from This Week in Games over at Kotaku.com. Today is Friday, August 9th, and releasing today, we have Sword Art Online, Fatal Bullet Complete Edition on the Switch, Turok 2, Seeds of Evil on the Switch. We've got Neverlast on the Switch, Tactics 5 Obsidian Brigade on PC, Mac, and Switch, Welcome to Hanwell on Switch, Temumari Complete Edition on Switch, hashtag Race Die Run on Switch. Automatic pass from me if you use a hashtag in your game's name. Automatic pass. Sorry guys, I can't do it. Automatic pass if you have a hashtag in your name. Don't do it. If you want Luke Croft's money, don't put a hashtag. Jackson the Thief on PC, Watchtower on PC, Clear It 5, all one word, on PC, and Celsius. I imagine Clear It 5 is probably some weird, like, puzzle game where you have to clear the board in 5 moves. That's my guess. All right, we're going to look it up on YouTube. Go to the good YouTubes here. Pull my keyboard into an actual range here. Clear It 5 game. All right, here we go. Clear It 5, 3 months ago. Here's the trailer for it. Soft and gentle. All right, it looks like it's way more than 5 moves that you get. This looks boring as hell. I'm not here for it. That's all I can do, guys. That's Clear It 5. I don't know what the 5 has to do with anything. I would think it would be 5 moves or 5 areas, but it really just looks like any other mobile puzzle game. But yeah, so those are your games that are releasing today on all platforms. Let's jump into the news though, guys, because I got a lot to say. First item on the list, we're going to kind of mesh some stories together here, because one is kind of a story that was a non-story, and then we've got this other story. So let's start here though. First item on the list, ESPN and ABC have canceled the broadcast, not canceled, delayed the broadcast for the Apex Legends tournament. This article comes from Joshua Rivera over at Kotaku. It says, this weekend's planned airing of the EXP Apex Legends Invitational at X Games tournament say that 10 times fast, on ESPN2 has been postponed by the network, quote, out of respect for the victims and all those impacted in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, end quote. The broadcast is meant to show highlights from the Apex Legends tournament that was held at X Games in Minneapolis, Minnesota on August 2nd, originally scheduled to air on ESPN2 this weekend. This show has been postponed for 2 months. The news broke overnight when esports reporter Rod Breslow tweeted a news tip from an ABC affiliate station, ABC and ESPN both being networks owned by Disney. You can see that tweet from Slasher right here. It says, while ESPN has not made an official statement, a source with knowledge of the network's plans has told Kotaku that the broadcast will now air on ESPN2 on Sunday, August 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, October 15th at 11 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday, October 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Where to start, guys? I make it a point on this show and on PvA Radio, on all the content that we make, to be measured and try to be considerate of most sides. Not consider it in the sense of like, oh, I sympathize with that or I even agree with that. But trying to understand motivations and why decisions are being made, and realizing that that nothing happens in a vacuum. That there's a context to everything. And I like to try to understand that context. And when you do that, it begins to like, I still react and give my opinions about those things. But when you can start to see the different sides and the motivations and why things happen, you can have just a more intelligent conversation about it. And I try to be measured on this show. I try to. I really do. I believe it's important. If I come on here and I get animated and I throw up my hands and I insult a bunch of people and, you know, do a bunch of crazy shit, like the point I try to make gets lost in the weeds. If you want my measured response, you can watch Monday's show. You can watch last night's show. Because here it is, just full stop here. This whole fucking narrative that has been crafted since our dumbass president stood behind a podium and blamed the gruesome and grisly video games that kids are playing these days on the atrocious violence that we have seen over the weekend. This whole narrative is for the fucking birds, all right? And I am sick of these companies acquiescing to this narrative that it's the video game's fault. And I'm also sick of this, like, veiled sensitivity and sympathy towards the victims of these heinous acts, to say that out of respect for these individuals, we're not going to broadcast this. Walmart's whole decision to pull the advertising of violent video games is out of respect for the people who were victims over these during these heinous acts. This whole notion that this is a move out of respect is complete and utter bullshit. All right? Complete and utter bullshit. In fact, I think it is the opposite of respectful for these companies to acquiesce to this narrative and to undergird the narrative by making these decisions in such a way that seemingly validates this argument that video games have anything to fucking do with what's going on here. It is the most disrespectful thing in the universe to these families that Walmart is saying, we're going to pull advertising for video games down so that, you know, we're not glorifying violence. How much fucking money is Walmart going to make over this weekend alone in gun sales as they're trying to make this like platitudinal, tone-deaf gesture of pulling down advertisement? It blows my mind, guys. I've had it up to here. Like, I'm so done with the distraction of it. And this is not me as a gaming fan being like, stop messing with my fucking video games. This is me saying there are more important things for us to be talking about than this shit. And this whole idea that ESPN and Disney is going to pool, in ABC, they're gonna pull this footage of the Apex Legends tournament for 2 months. If this is a principled stance that you're trying to make, and you're trying to make a statement that it is insensitive to have this kind of these kinds of things on your network during times of tragedy, when in this country have we not been in a time of mourning over heinous acts like this in the last 5 years? Because from where I sit, it seems like every time the nation has seemed to move on and seem to heal and to finish their time of mourning over these awful and atrocious things that happen, there's another one coming in right behind it. So, are we putting an end date onto our sensitivity here? Does ABC believe that in 2 months, in October, when they go to broadcast this, that we're gonna have the conversation figured out, and that video game violence is gonna play less of a part in it in 2 months than they seemingly believe it's playing in it now? I don't know what kind of points they're trying to win, what kind of PR points they're trying to win in doing this. And look, I have stayed out of comment sections on these stories because I think they're stupid, and I have zero respect for just about anybody who's going to go into the comment section and praise a decision like this of being bold and principled and way to drive your stake in the ground, ABC, and finally take a stand against those video games that literally dozens of studies have been conducted of trying to make a link, and it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. In any kind of measurable way, it doesn't exist. And I guess that's who they're trying to appease. I guess that's who they're trying to get to look at this decision and be like, man, damn, ABC, great job. But it's just so fucking frustrating. It's enraging to see corporations latch on to a bullshit narrative that's been perpetuated by our leaders when there is a glaring issue directly in front of us that they are too cowardly to tackle. Blows my mind, man. The whole Walmart thing is just baffling to me. Like, we'll pull down Gears of War advertisements, but by God, if we won't sell you this 9mm handgun, like, it's fucking stupid, right? Like, objectively. I don't feel like I'm expressing an opinion here. And that may be something wires crossed in me, but I don't think this is an opinion. Like, I think it is objectively stupid that this is the hill where we're willing to plant our flag in and say, this is where we stand on this. Like, oh, man. And then you had this story coming out of IGN today. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was hilarious, though. So IGN picked up on a story on Twitter that employees at Walmart. So yesterday we talked about the whole idea of the ads being taken down, and it was like a corporate memo that was being sent out to management staff across Walmart stores. And so today, I'm assuming in like whatever morning meetings they have with their staff, they were passing along these memos and telling them how to do it. Well, there was some stuff coming out on Twitter that some people were being told, like, we are taking violent video games off the shelf. Like if a video game has violence in it, we are going to be removing it from the shelf. And there were some stories going around that were saying like, we are removing all video games from sales right now for temporarily. And so IGN saw the report and didn't immediately write a story, right? Because that's terrible reporting. Like, oh, I just read something on Twitter and now I'm going to go write a story about it without actually fact checking it. So they reached out to Walmart and they said, hey, is this true? And Walmart gave some response that was like, you know, we are doing this out of respect for the incidents that have taken place over the last week. It is definitely not a long-term decision, but in the short term, we believe that this is the right move for our company. And so IGN emailed them again and said, we just want to know that what we are writing about in this story is actually what you're asking people to do. And they came back with something in this that said, like, our previous statement still stands. And so IGN thought, okay, we've got these reports from Twitter. We've double checked with Walmart twice to get their confirmation that these are accurate. They have given us what seems to be a validating response for it. So we're going to run with this story. So they publish the story, and then somebody at Walmart is like, oh, whoa. You misunderstood. We have not changed anything about what games we are selling. We have not changed anything about that. It's about the advertising. You misunderstood. And IGN's like, you miscommunicated. But the story stood as published for quite some time before the correction came through. And I loved the end of it, the end of their update, because it said, and we too are similarly pissed. Like, IGN did their due diligence on this story and published a story that they believe to be confirmed from the source, from the subject of the story. Like, they did their due diligence as reporters. And then, whoa. And it becomes this whole, like, hysteria thing. And I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat. If I had my, do I have my emotes here? Hold on. What? Siri just thought I was talking to her. She heard me. She heard me say tinfoil hat. She knew I was about to start going into a conspiracy theory, and she needed to know if I know all the government secrets. Tinfoil hat. Tinfoil hat. Ready? Not much of a conspiracy theorist, but here it is. I'm going to lay it out. Walmart has realized that this narrative around removing advertisements for violent games was starting to get away from them. And so they thought, well, we'll let this story about them pulling video games off the shelf live in the wild for a couple hours, and then swoop in with the correction to say, oh, no, we're not changing anything about how we sell games. It's kind of like the whole idea of, like, you come home after making a dumb decision, and you're like, when you're a teen, and you're like, Dad, I wrecked the car real bad. And he's like, what? What did you do? You wrecked the car? And you're like, yeah, it's totaled. He's like, you totaled my car and you didn't call me until you got home, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, Dad, I'm just kidding. I didn't total the car. I had a milkshake. It was sitting in the seat and it spilled over. There's a stain on the seat cushion. He's like, oh my gosh, why would you tell me that you totaled the car? And it's all about, like, just softening the blow of the actual news. So it's like, hey guys, we're taking all video games off the shelf, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're removing games. And they let that linger for a bit, and they're like, no, we're not removing the games, guys. We're just taking down the ads, in the hopes of it coming across like, oh, okay, all right, well, that's a temporary change we can live with. It's not a temporary change I can live with, and not because, and again, it's not because I'm like, my video games. It's because it perpetuates and seemingly validates a narrative of something that is just objectively untrue about the relationship between violence in video games and real game violence. All right, I've exhausted all of the oxygen that I want to exhaust on this topic. I'm so fucking done with it. Had it up to here. So we're moving on, guys. Let's talk about other video game news. Next item on the list. Phil Spencer said that more single-player games are heading to Xbox. This is from Alicia Judge over at IGN. It says, Xbox chief Phil Spencer has promised on Twitter that strong single-player games are a key focus for the platform and will be for the foreseeable future. After a Twitter user asked whether more single-player games will land on Xbox in years to come, Spencer replied, quote, yes, I can confirm with the additions to Xbox Game Studios, we have a lot of teams that have built strong SP-focused games, and we want to continue that, end quote. By name-checking Xbox Game Studios, the 15 third-party studios that Microsoft's acquired over the years, it would seem that Spencer is promising platform-exclusive single-player experiences as opposed to games like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Control, which will both launch across Xbox, PC, and PlayStation this year. Adoy, right? I think it makes sense. PS4 has built all of their success on the back of a strong single-player focused first-party lineup, or strong single-player focused exclusive lineup. And so it would make sense for Phil Spencer to look at that. I mean, it doesn't take like an industry analyst to look and say, PlayStation sell many single-player game, good. We want to be good, so we sell single-player games. Like, there's a transitive property to it, guys. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at what PlayStation has done. They've doubled down on the single-player market, and they've made it awesome, high-quality games. And so it makes sense for Phil Spencer to say, we're focusing on this. It's clearly what gamers want. It's clearly something that sells. And we clearly haven't found a lot of success in some of our standing exclusive titles. So, yeah, it makes sense. But I also think, and this is something I've been saying for quite some time, like, no console right now, neither console maker, neither PlayStation or Xbox, really has a solid games as service kind of game. And I guess on the one hand, that strategy makes a little bit of sense, because it's like, well, if we have one studio that creates a game that really just like dominates our player base, then it's going to impact the sale of our other games that we of other games that our studios are making. So I guess on the one hand that makes sense, but on the other hand, it's like there are tons of popular games as service games that people invest tons of time and tons of money into. And why are these platform holders not investing more time, money, and energy into IP that can stand as a game as service? I know that's a dirty word to a lot of people, but I don't think it necessarily has to be. You think about a game like The Division, which has a fan base that loves that game. I mean, obviously, any fan base is going to have complaints. You have games like Destiny. I think about games like Rainbow Six Siege, which has stood the test of time for years now, and has continued to build their audience. Like, as much as I want to see more single-player games coming out of both PlayStation and Xbox, I just think it's a missed opportunity at this point for these platform holders, these publishers, to not say, well, how do we break into this games as a service space? But I'm excited. I'm excited for what Xbox has in store for the next generation. I'm excited for the coming E3s where they're going to, or whatever, industry event's going to be taking place, where they're going to reveal these games. I think they have a large and awesome pedigree of studios to parade before us the work that they're doing. And so I believe Xbox when they say, hey, we've got strong single player stuff. The article goes on the list, like, you have Ninja Theory, who made Hellblade. They are currently working on, and shit, I can't remember the name of that game. Ninja Theory. It's something Blade, I think. Oh no, it's Bleeding Edge. Which is a multiplayer game, but they have Obsidian, who did Fallout New Vegas, In Exile, doing Wasteland 3. Double Fine is working on Psychonauts 2. They have their quadruple A studio, The Initiative, that's working on some stuff. So a lot there's a diversity of studios that are working on on titles. I would love to just see one of them be like, we're going to try to tackle a game as a service, and not this like bifurcated Gear style or Halo style. This is a shared world something, Destiny-esque, that we're going to just try to pull people into. And I thought for a moment that Halo Infinite may be moving in that direction. I'm less confident in that now, but yeah, I'd love to see a mix of it from both. And look, people will probably, fans of PlayStation will probably hate that I'm saying this. Like, I would love to see a studio at Sony tackle a game as a service. We've gotten a lot of like over-the-shoulder third-person action from PlayStation exclusives this generation, and that's awesome. I'm fine with it. I've loved the exclusives we've gotten on PlayStation, but I'd love to see more of a diversity in those libraries. Variety is the spice of life, baby. That's why I play just exclusively Overwatch and League of Legends. Next story on the list. Call of Duty is not a political game, according to Infinity Ward. This is a bit of a long read, but I think it's an important read. This is from Natalie Clayton over at VG247. Let's talk about Imperial superpowers and power relationships all you like. It's not politics if you don't name real people. Infinity Ward wants you to know that Call of Duty Modern Warfare, a game about proxy wars between superpowers and the colonial domains that do their dirty work, is apolitical. Phew! Dodged the bullet there. Job well done. This is editorial, if you can't tell. The article continues. Modern Warfare wants to be realistic. It wants to make you feel uncomfortable with the horrors of war, but it wants to do all of that without any allegory to the politics of real life. That's the sentiment shared by gameplay director Jacob Minkoff. Speaking to Game Informer, Minkoff claimed that the Modern Warfare isn't one of those naughty political games. The reasoning, it doesn't mention Trump by name. Quote, do we touch topics that bear resemblance to the geopolitics of the world we live in today? Hell yeah, because that is the subject matter of Modern Warfare, end quote, said Minkoff. Quote, are we telling a story that has anything to do with specific governments or any countries that we are portraying? No. So if you're asking, like, is Trump in the video game? No, he isn't, end quote. Narrative director Taylor Kurosaki chimed in, adding more confusion to the claim. Quote, we do talk about concepts like colonialism and occupation and independence and freedom. We don't maybe say those words specifically, but that's the realm that we are in. Quote, but you could have a game that takes place in revolutionary America talk about those exact same concepts. It could be set in Afghanistan in the 80s instead, end quote. Yeah. Oh my gosh, guys. This is not the first time we have seen stories like this coming out of massive AAA studios. We saw the same thing happen with the Division 2, where developers are so scared of the word politics that they don't know the definition of it when they're talking about it. I am so befuddled by what we're supposed to think about Call of Duty Modern Warfare because of the just complete lack of focus in the messaging for the game. And we've talked about this at length on PvA Radio, so I'm not going to rehash necessarily everything that we think about this. But we've seen where Modern Warfare, where Infinity Ward has talked about Call of Duty Modern Warfare and said, we want to say something about war. We want to display the horrors of war. We're going to make you make tough decisions. We're going to put you in realistic situations that are just shitty. Like, but look how powerful you feel when you're shooting this gun. And, you know, big applause. We're bringing back kill streak rewards and look at what they are. Like, it's a we want to have our cake and eat it too kind of thing. And we've talked at length about how I don't think Call of Duty is the right franchise to say something about war. It's just not. Like, we've had games in the past from Call of Duty where they've tried to take on like the industrialization of war and you know, the privatization of war and all that kind of stuff. and then you put on your like bright orange camo and you dab on the people that you kill in multiplayer. Like, I just don't think it's the franchise for it. But this idea that we're going to say something about war, I can't even get through the statement that we're going to say something. We're going to display war in all of its gory detail, all of its pain, all of its suffering, all of its loss. We're going to try to help you to understand the context of war. We want to display the horrors of war in a way that our fan base can connect to it, while completely ignoring the fact that a war is fought between two opposing governments with their own sets of politics, with their own sets of ideologies, and that war is the conflict between those for control. You cannot have an apolitical game that attempts to say something about war. The two ideas are diametrically opposed to one another. They are mutually exclusive. Apolitical games, games that say something about war, the Venn diagram doesn't overlap, guys. And just because you don't have some like avatar for Donald Trump in the game, and you don't talk about Brexit, and you don't talk about Russia trying to expand their territory, just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean there's not politics in your game. You cannot say something about colonialism, occupation, independence, and freedom without some sort of subtext to it. And if there's no subtext to it, you're not making a hard-hitting game. And that's fine. It is totally fine if Call of Duty just wants to say, hey, we're making a game, you know, we're going to make sure the shooting is fun. We are going to make sure that the action is packed, and we are going to make sure the explosions feel powerful, and we are going to make sure that you experience what it is like to shoot a gun in war and all these things. Like, if they want to do that and avoid the politics thing, totally fine. There are plenty of shooters out there that don't have anything to say about politics. But you know what they don't do? Claim to have something to say. The story just blows my mind, man. Like, we're so scared of being on the wrong side of the political conversation that these developers can't even recognize that what they are saying is that they are talking about political things at the same time as saying our game has nothing to do with politics. It's apolitical. Get out of here with that. I'm really worried about Modern Warfare from an identity standpoint. I think the game's going to be fun. I've talked at length about how I think Gunfight is going to be awesome. I'm excited about the multiplayer, but from an identity perspective, I feel like I'm going to feel weird playing this game because it's going to be bifurcated. It's going to be clear not the struggles of war as I'm playing the game, but the struggles of these developers trying to toe a line that just does not exist. Still going to play it. Still going to play it, but I'm just sick of these stories. Sick of them. They're just weird. Like, what storyteller? Talk to anybody who writes, and I don't care if it's somebody like award-winning bestseller or somebody who just like has a manuscript on their computer at home that only they've laid eyes on. Like, talk to any of them and be like, do you not want to say anything in this? Like, are you writing something that doesn't say something? Like, is there no lesson to be learned here? Every single one of them is going to be like, oh yeah, no, we want our art to say something. But these developers and the writers of these games constantly step out and they're like, oh, we're not trying to say anything. We're not trying to take a stance. We're not trying to leverage the art of storytelling for the exact purpose that it exists for. Like, miss me with this shit, guys. is completely and totally asinine to suggest that you're saying something about colonialism, occupation, independence, and freedom, but you're being apolitical. Stupid. You don't understand the definition of apolitical. Next item on the list. Let's stick with Activision here. This is from Stephen Tailby over at Push Square. I'm just going to summarize this. Yesterday on an earnings call with Activision, Robert Kostich gave high praise for Spyro and Crash Bandicoot, two properties that Activision owns, and how the remasters of those were received, and also the Crash Team Racing, nitro fueled, and basically hinted at like, hey, this had a big impact, well, quote, a big impact on the bottom line, end quote. And then, quote, it's an opportunity to think about totally new content within these IPs. We talked about this again on PvA Radio probably a few months ago at this point. Well, yeah, it was when Destiny and Activision broke up. Of like, well, what does Activision have? Like, they have their publishing arm. And they've done things like Sekiro, and they're probably going out and trying to broker more and more deals like that with other studios. But as far as IP that they own and control, with studios that they own and control, like, what do they really have? And outside of Call of Duty, they really don't have anything. And I know that they've got, it's Activision Blizzard, and Blizzard has all their stuff they're working on. But from just the Activision side of things, they put all of their eggs in this Call of Duty basket. And I see them banking in hard on this nostalgia factor. Like, oh shit, people loved Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and Crash Team Racing. We are going to milk this cow dry. Because nostalgia sells, man. There's very few currencies worth more than nostalgia right now. Nostalgia is a fat check ready to be cashed, and that is what Rob Kostich said to his investors on that earning call yesterday. Like, oh shit, people love this trilogy from years ago. Let's get them excited about some new shit. Because it's really the only thing outside of Call of Duty right now that Activision really has to move on without creating something from scratch or going out and purchasing something else. Like, they know that these are IPs that work, and they are going to get every dime they can out of it. So just expect it. My wife will be excited. She loves Spyro. I tried going back and playing some of the Crash Bandicoot games because I remember playing them as a kid, and then, you know, that little hint of nostalgia, spoiler alert, when it shows up in Uncharted 4. I tried going back to the Crash Remastered trilogy, and I was like, this just doesn't do it for me anymore, man. But I know that there are people that love this stuff and are excited and would be excited to see more and more of it. And it's easy. I would imagine it's probably pretty easy to spin up. It's not going to take, you know, a lot of heavy lifting to get a new game in these IPs out the door, especially because people are going to be clamoring for more of the same. If you try to deviate too much from what people are nostalgic about, you're just going to get outraged for it. And so, hey, let's just make something very similar to the old Spyro games, just with a new story, maybe a couple new mechanics, some new enemies, a new world. Same thing with Crash. We're good to go. I just feel like that's simple. And it'd be smart for Activision to do it. Give yourself like a safety net. Because I feel like every year with Call of Duty, it's always like a coin toss of, how are people going to receive this, despite the fact that it's always going to be the top-selling game. And any year that GTA is not releasing, Call of Duty will be the top-selling game. You can go back and listen to PvA Radio when the guys were like, Red Dead Redemption 2 will be the top-selling game of 2018. I was like, y'all don't know shit. Turns out Call of Duty Black Ops 4 blew Red Dead out of the water in sales. Because people still love Call of Duty, but that well's going to run dry eventually, right? Don't know. Next item on the list. This should be a quick one here. NBA 2K20 is adding WNBA teams to the game. They're adding I believe it's 12 teams and over like 120 players. Hold on, let me make sure I've got the numbers right. Yeah, all 12 teams, over 140 players to NBA 2K20. NBA Live did this years ago. Mad Brock says, WoW is still going, so maybe Call of Duty will keep going. Maybe. People still drop hella cash on WoW as well. So yeah, WNBA players coming to NBA 2K20. This is a feature that NBA Live added a few years ago as well. And it's cool to see. I mean, I'm not particularly a fan of the WNBA, but I think it's cool for them to be represented in these games. And especially with the level of detail and realism that they try to bring the NBA game to these games. So I think that's cool. I also think it's cool from the perspective that in the 2K League, there is a female professional 2K player, and it'd be awesome if she could use a female build if she wanted to in the game. I think that's really cool. And to all the people who like backlash on all this stuff, and this pulled out a lot of sexism, as you can probably imagine, like, just grow up and move on. Like, okay, you don't like the WNBA, not your thing, that's fine. Like, you don't have to play it. It's not my thing either. I doubt I will do anything other than maybe like hop in for a game or two in the WNBA stuff. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm happy for it to be in there because I know it's other people's cups of tea. The WNBA wouldn't exist if people didn't like it, and people didn't spend money on it, and people didn't care about it. So get that whole narrative out of your head. It's false. Last item on the list. This isn't even a news story, guys. I just saw this and was like, I'm putting this in the show notes. You can buy a mouse with a real spider inside of it. Why would anybody want this shit? This is from Paul Lilly over at PC Gamer. It says, I don't know exactly how exactly I stumbled onto this, but there's a company that sells a mouse with an actual spider inside. It's clearly visible through the transparent chassis, and no, I'm not adding this one to my wish list. I might call it Bugs Be Gone, though, to see if John Goodman is available to reprise his role from Arachnophobia should this thing ever show up on my doorstep or move. I'm not really sure. Guys, why would anybody want this? Yo, Kiki dude. Welcome. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Would you want this spider mouse here? Does this look like something that you would order from Amazon with their free now one-day shipping on many items if you're a Prime member? It's epic. You like this? This would be my fear. I know, look, the rational side of my brain knows. I don't think I want to see your reaction, Kiki dude, but I appreciate it. I know that this is irrational, but my fear would be that I would go to bed one night and this thing would be inside of its case. You cannot send a link, Kiki dude. I mean, you can probably send it. I'm not going to open it, but my fear would be I would go to bed at night with this spider safely resting inside of this mouse, and then the very next morning wake up and it would be gone. Nowhere to be found. And now this giant ass spider's living in my house. I say that, but my basement has like huge ass spiders. I'm talking like with their legs spread like that big, like giant spiders. Fucking hate spiders. But I would not invite one into my house. It's like a vampire, dude. Invite them in, and you're not responsible for, I mean, you are solely responsible for what that thing does. On a side note from this, I mentioned Amazon's one-day shipping. Pretty much everything I've been ordering over the last few weeks has been coming in a day. Like, I ordered a planner, got here the very next day. I ordered this mouse, this Logitech mouse, got here in a day. I ordered, when I ordered the Stream Deck, it got here in a day. I ordered my Behringer little like sound mixer thing, got here in a day. Nothing that my wife has ordered has come in a day, and she is really, really pissed about it. Like, really pissed about it, to the point where like she curses me when I get something that comes in a day. So have you guys been noticing like a shift in what you order from Amazon? Like, is more and more stuff getting to you overnight, or are you still having to wait 2 days? She is ecstatic because I ordered, I want to start using this Behringer thing more as like a mixer for when I've got music playing in the stream. So I ordered some 1/4 to 1/8 inch adapters, and I was like, all right, well, they're not going to be here till Monday. And my wife was like excited about it. She was elated at the fact that I had to wait an extra day to get these things. She roots for my demise, man. She's probably going to order me a bunch of these spider mice, which sounds even more terrifying than this atrocity right here. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the PvA Nightly Rundown for tonight, and I actually believe that's also going to do it for my stream. I'm really tired, and I want to take a shower before I go to bed because I am nasty from where I went to a park in 95-degree humidity wearing jeans because I'm an idiot. We appreciate you guys stopping by. We do this every single weeknight at 9 p.m. Eastern time over here on twitch.tv/PVA Radio. If you can't catch it live, you can go watch it the very next day on youtube.com/PVA Radio, where we break it out section by section, or you can watch the entire show. Thinking about putting this on podcast services, so be on the lookout for that as well. And until next time, guys, game day is tomorrow. Come by. Mad Brock, at the top of the show, I was talking, we're getting our house ready to hopefully put up on the market. And so tomorrow and Sunday are fully dedicated to cleaning this place top to bottom. So I am spoken for this weekend. I apologize. But keep telling me, and I'm going to guarantee you, unless I die, which is, with my physique, it's possible. I will guarantee you I'm going to show up to one. But yeah, spoken for this weekend, my dude. I appreciate the invite. But probably no streams this weekend because of that. Unless it is a late night stream, like we're talking 10:30, 11 o'clock. But until next time, guys, we love you. Goodbye.